Hey guys, how's it going? This is Waj, and in this video we'll be doing a head-to-head hands-on comparison of the Samsung Galaxy S5 versus the new iPhone 6 Plus. This is going to give you kind of an illustration on how this new iPhone, this larger iPhone, compares against Samsung's current flagship product, the Samsung Galaxy S5. Now, obviously, the Note 4 is coming out soon as well. We'll get our hands on it and do a direct hands-on comparison, much like the one that you're going to see. But a lot of people are going to be interested in how this larger Android smartphone, although it might not be as large as the new iPhone 6 Plus, kind of fares against the 6 Plus in terms of all things considered. So if you're interested in either of these smartphones or just interested on how these two compare in real life, stay tuned. Now, the first thing that we're going to take a look at is the overall physical size differences between the Samsung Galaxy S5 and the iPhone 6 Plus. Now, the 6 Plus measures about 158.1 millimeters in terms of its height and about 77.8 millimeters in terms of its width. Now, this is certainly bigger than the Samsung S5, measuring about 142 millimeters in terms of its height, 72.5 millimeters in terms of its width. Now, when we're taking a look at the thickness of these two devices, again, the iPhone is, even though it's a larger device, it's still going to the gym and it's very slim at 7.1 millimeters versus the S5 actually being thicker by 1 millimeter, of about 8.1 millimeters in difference. Now, the weight of the iPhone 6 Plus is certainly substantial compared to most iPhones that you would come across in the past couple of years. It measures about 172 grams versus the S5 measuring only about 145 grams. And the weight is certainly hefty, but it is certainly a larger phone. Now, certainly that weight is going to be a trade-off because the iPhone 6 Plus is made of really high quality aluminum construction, and it certainly feels a lot more premium than the Samsung S5, which is being made primarily out of polycarbonate plastics. And although it's a very sturdy material and fairly stiff in its overall construction, it's certainly not as comfortable and as nice to hold as even the larger iPhone 6 Plus, especially if you have a little bit larger hands and you like to use larger phones. Now, if you do have smaller pockets, though, the iPhone 6 Plus is going to be a little bit of a problem, although the Samsung Galaxy S5 is no tiny phone. So for most people who are able to fit a Samsung S5 in their pockets without any issues, they're definitely going to be adaptable to getting an iPhone 6 Plus. Now, one big difference between these two in terms of durability is going to be the factor that the Samsung S5 is actually IP67 certified for water resistance as well as dust. So if you do drop it in a puddle or even in a shallow pool and things like that, the Samsung Galaxy S5 won't have any issues, versus the iPhone will certainly not be adaptable to really wet conditions. Obviously, it's splash proof to a certain extent, but certainly not water resistant compared to the Samsung S5. Now, moving forward, looking at the screens of these two devices, obviously the Samsung has a slightly smaller screen, about 5.1 inches compared to the 5.5-inch display on the 6 Plus. But in terms of resolution, they're actually identical in terms of native resolution, both being 1080p. But of course, because the Samsung S5 has a slightly smaller screen, you're going to have a higher PPI count of about 432 versus 401 on the iPhone 6 Plus side. I wish the iPhone 6 Plus had a higher resolution. The new Note 4 is actually going to have a 2560 by 1440 display, which would have been perfect for the 6 Plus, but I'm sure they're saving that display for next year. Another cool thing about the 6 Plus is that it has a new polarizing layer on top of the glass, which is going to give you a little bit better viewing experience in terms of brightly lit sunlit conditions. Now, in terms of the display quality and color rendition, there is something to be said about the Samsung Galaxy S5 screen. It has a Super AMOLED technology in there, so it can actually turn off regions that don't need to be backlit because it has active organic LEDs actually turning on and off locally in the screen. So in terms of color contrast ratio, it's pretty much infinite. Gives the phone kind of a hyper realistic look, but in terms of black levels, it's pretty much insane, and that's one of the reasons why Samsung is still king of mobile display technology and displays in general. The iPhone 6 is certainly not bad, and the 6 Plus has a pretty much identical screen. They both can represent 16 million colors, but in terms of durability, they're also fairly similar as well. They're both using Corning Gorilla Glass technology, and unfortunately, we don't have sapphire crystal display on the new iPhone 6 Plus. We're still waiting for that technology to be implemented eventually into these smartphones, but they're pretty well resistant for overall scratch and drops. But if you drop them at a really higher significant impact, both screens will crack and shatter. And if you're interested in the specific durability concerns, you definitely want to check out our video that actually demonstrates the durability of the iPhone 6 in terms of the overall scratch resistance of the overall body and glass, as well as a drop test video. So definitely check those two videos out if you're interested in how the iPhone 6 Plus is in terms of durability. Now, next, we're going to talk about memory options. The iPhone 6 Plus comes in three different models, the 16, 64, and 128 gigabyte model sizes. And the Samsung Galaxy S5 has limited sizes, 16 and 32 respectively, but it has expandable internal memory thanks to its micro SD expansion slot. So you can upgrade the memory up to 128 gigabytes. Now, under the hoods of these two leader class smartphones, we have a very different architecture. The Apple iPhone 6 is using Apple's own Apple A8 architecture, which is a dual-core processor clocked at about 1.4 gigahertz, as well as a motion coprocessor, the M8 processor, which is actually going to track some of your gyroscopic movements, accelerometer movements, as well as elevation. So if you climb a lot of stairs or climb mountains, the iPhone 6 is definitely going to track you when you're doing those health-oriented activities. On the Samsung S5 side, we have a quad-core Snapdragon 801 chip clocked at about 2.5 gigahertz, and you could have a different octa-core processor depending upon which version of the S5 you have, but most people in North America are going to have this version. And additionally, this version also has 2 gigabytes of RAM. Now, in order to test the real-world differences between these two smartphones, we're going to start our benchmarking, and we're going to look at our core benchmark results to give you an idea of what the differences are and what the A8 is capable of compared to the Snapdragon processor in these two devices. The first set that we're going to take a look at is the Antutu benchmark. So on the Antutu benchmark, you can see that the iPhone 6 Plus is certainly a lot faster when it comes to single core and single threaded applications, definitely scoring a higher score. Now, when we take a look at the Geekbench 3 benchmark, you can see that even though that the new processor, the new A8, is a dual-core processor, it's still faster than pretty much most of your Snapdragon chips that are currently available right now, scoring a very high score on both single-core application and multi-threaded applications. The next thing that we're going to do is take a look at the external speakers between these two devices and see which one sounds best. Now, moving forward, we're going to take a look at the operating systems between these two phones, and we're not going to go into a huge amount of depth in comparing the features of Android KitKat 4.4 that the Samsung Galaxy S5 is running at compared to the all-new iOS 8 that the iPhone 6 is running. But just to give some quick highlights between each operating system, in the new iOS 8, I really do like the dual app modes where you actually get two different views on a single app. So if you're reading your email, you can get a better look at your messages as well as your inbox. I also do like the one-hand operations in iOS 8. Very convenient for using with one hand, and it's certainly better than some of the options the Samsung S5 has for its one-end operation. Now, the Samsung S5 is running TouchWiz UI on top of Android KitKat 4.4. One of the cool things that TouchWiz has been offering for a number of years now is the multi-window view, which is great for multitasking. You can have different apps segmented in half of the screen, and it works in landscape and portrait mode, so you can be browsing the web in one and watching a YouTube video in the other, and it really makes the Android platform pretty powerful in that respect. Additionally, some other things I like is the Smart Stay mode, where it will basically monitor your face and eye movements and turn off the screen if you're not looking at it, or keep the screen on if you are looking at it, as well as some gesture controls, which basically expands some of the ways you can communicate and control your Samsung Galaxy S5. Now, continuing on looking at the unique differences between these two phones, I'm going to highlight the fact that the Samsung Galaxy S5 has a unique feature that a lot of different smartphones don't have, which is a heart rate sensor at the back of the phone, which is definitely handy if you're using your phone for exercising or running. And of course, both have their health-related apps. Both have a fingerprint sensor as well. The iPhone 6 definitely has a more robust sensor. It can read your fingerprint in different orientation, and it does a better job in terms of quickly identifying and scanning your fingerprint, better than what I typically experience on the S5. Now, looking at the connectivity options between these two phones, both have dual band AC compatibility, so great for using the latest generation of Wi-Fi technology, including Bluetooth 4.0, and they both have the integration for their respective smartwatches. Obviously, the new Apple iPhone 6 will use the new Apple Watches coming out soon, so it'll integrate with that for all your health and all your different applications that people are going to be coming up with. And of course, the Samsung is going to use the new Android Wear lineup of devices, including Samsung's own Gear lineup of smartwatches. Furthermore, NFC is something that both devices are compatible with. Specifically with the iPhone 6, Apple has a new method called Apple Pay, which is going to be released wide throughout North America and hopefully throughout the rest of the world soon, which is going to basically enable you to connect your MasterCard, Visa, and your traditional card method of payments through your Apple account, and basically use the tap to go feature that is in most of these NFC chips. So pretty exciting stuff if you want to eliminate your wallet and just use your phone to pay for everything. Now, next we're going to move on to the cameras. Now, having an excellent camera is almost a must these days with most of these smartphones, and it's one of the reasons why they cost so much. So the iPhone 6 has a upgraded camera from last year's 5S. There's not a lot of numbers differences in terms of megapixels and resolutions, but there are some interesting factors that you should consider. Now, in terms of sensor size, for the rear-facing camera, you're looking at a 3rd-inch sensor chip that still has 8 megapixel overall resolution for your stills, but the big thing now is that they have a phase detection autofocusing, which should be a lot faster for your focusing, and you should get clearer pictures as a result of that. Another big difference between the 6 Plus compared to the iPhone 6 is the inclusion of optical stabilization, which is probably one of the best features on the new 6 Plus camera. It gives you excellent overall image stabilization, so if you have a shakier hand or just like to shoot video in more demanding places where you would get a lot more shaky results. In terms of video, we're still looking at 1920 by 1080 at 60 frames per second now, as well as the big highlighted feature of 720p 240 frames per second, which is going to be incredible for your slow motion capabilities. The Samsung S5 has a little bit of a smaller sensor size, but it has a much higher resolution of 16 megapixels, and it also has phase detection autofocusing. Now, the big thing about the video features is it has 2160p video, which is 4K at 30 frames per second, fantastic, as well as 720p at 120 frames per second. So the iPhone is still superior in terms of slow motion video, but in terms of sheer resolution, the Samsung definitely has that up on the iPhone. But so let's go ahead and take a look at a side-by-side comparison between these two cameras and see which one is better for your image quality. Now, here you're looking at the stills capabilities of these two rear-facing cameras side by side. As you can see over here from an online video, there's not a big massive difference between most things. Obviously, in terms of sharpness and clarity, the Samsung is double the resolution, and therefore you do have a lot more ability to blow up the image and get a different crop if you're doing a lot of editing and things like that. But for most of your photos that you're gonna post up on your social networking sites, I think both cameras definitely can do the job. Now for video, the Samsung Galaxy S5 definitely has a huge leg up thanks to its much higher bit rate of 4K 30 frames per second. Now obviously 60 frames per second is going to give you more smoother images in terms of clearer motion, but really at the end of the day, most people watch at 30 frames per second anyways, and the 4K resolution that you get on the GS5 is certainly kind of in a different league compared to the iPhone. Although the iPhone definitely doesn't look bad, but I would still probably use the GS5 for most of my video recording needs. Now we're just going to do a quick test of me just walking with the cameras to kind of give you an illustration of how the optical stabilization works. And as you can see over here, both do a good job of smoothing the overall image. You can see some warping and some artifacting here and there, but basically I think the iPhone does a little bit better job in terms of just really making this shot as smooth as possible, but both are fairly comparable. Now the last thing that we're going to talk about is the battery performance of both these two smartphones. Now the Samsung S5 is certainly not bad at all in terms of battery life. You're getting over 21 hours of 3G talk time, and with the battery performance optimization modes, the battery saver modes, you're going to get even better performance. And of course battery life depends upon how you use the phone. It has a 2800 milliamp hour battery, which is user replaceable, one thing that the iPhone 6 Plus does not have. But in terms of the battery performance on the iPhone 6 Plus, we're looking at possibly one of the best iPhones for the battery life. It has a very large battery, giving you more than 24 hours of 3G talk time, and if you use the phone carefully, you can probably get even better battery life out of it. So it's very, very similar to larger phablet devices that are out in the market, and if you're a heavy user, the 6 Plus is certainly a big thumbs up from me. But on that, guys, that's really it. If you have any specific questions on how the 6 Plus compares against the GS5, please make sure to leave that on a comment down below. Make sure to give us a thumbs up if you can, really helps us out. And check out our YouTube channel where you'll find all of our latest comparisons. Particularly check out the 6 Plus versus the LG G3 comparison, which kind of gives you a great current lineup of one of the best Android smartphones, which is the LG G3 versus the 6 Plus. So thank you so much again, and we'll see you later. Take care.